Hey folks, it's David from Retro Rides here again at Speedweek, and this time I'm super excited because we got Mark Walker and the 200 horsepower Darracq, which is absolutely without question one of my favourite vintage cars in the UK, and Mark has been working on it and getting it back out in recent years. So let's explain what it is first, and then we'll talk about its recent past and its longer past.
Okay, so Darracq early in the last century did hold the land speed record, basically with a modified racing car, or even hardly modified racing car. Then they lost it, and then they obviously decided to get serious and build a car specifically to break the record. And the only rules for the outright record were the car had to weigh under 1,000 kilos.
Oh, okay.
So they basically put two of their Gordon Bennett 4-cylinder engines together and created a large V8, which is here. It's a 25.4 litre V8.
25.4 litres.
Over square, interestingly, which seems strange for an early vehicle. It's 170 bore and 140 stroke, with fork and blade rods, 3-bearing crank. Anyway, they built the car. It weighed 990 kilos in period. I'm guessing it's about 300 brake horsepower, even though it's called the 200 horsepower Darracq. And it's kind of groovy. So they did, first time out, they broke the record on a road in the south of France between Arles and Salon, did 109 miles an hour. Then they managed to get it on a boat. This was late December 05. They got it on a boat and got it to the Florida Speedweek.
Wow.
In the end of Jan 06, I don't know how they managed that.
That's incredible.
Where it was was then the first car to do 2 miles a minute, which is obviously 120 miles an hour.
Unbelievable.
Then, cutting a long story short, it did, as far as I know, nothing then happened until 6 months later when Algie Guinness, who was a keen motorist and Darracq owner, bought it. And then he campaigned it for 3 years, probably winning it's never been a racing car, it's a sprint car, and he probably won everything that he ever did with it.
Fantastic.
And then it was last used, he last drove it in 1909 on the beach at Saltburn, where he broke the English record at 120 miles an hour.
Amazing.
Not bad on the sand, so it takes a bit of doing.
Doing 120 miles an hour on sand.
Yes, exactly. Skinny tyres. That's amazing. And that was, as far as I know, the last time it was used. He then, moving forward a few years, he died, I think, in 1954 or 55, and there was a Darracq enthusiast in the UK called Gerald Firkins who knew that Algie still had the car, or the remains of the car, and he approached his widow and asked to buy the car. Unfortunately, also the Science Museum had also approached to buy it, but luckily Anthony Heel, who was a friend of Algie's and a keen vintage motoring man, realised that if the Science Museum got it, it would never be seen again.
Yeah, just disappear into
and he asked, Algie's widow asked him if he could she didn't want to have anything to do with it, asked Anthony if he could sort it out, and he asked the Science Museum if they'd like to increase their offer of £25 for the car, and he also told Gerald Firkins that he probably should offer £50 for the car, which he did. The Science Museum declined to offer any more than their £25 offer, so Gerald Firkins got it.
Lovely.
So he was now the second owner. And then it became a massive project. There was not a lot left of the car, mainly the motor and the centre section of the chassis. And I believe the reason for that is that the engine was put in a boat, so I suspect someone took the car to a boat yard, they chopped the front of the back off,
that makes sense,
and used the middle of the chassis as engine bearers in the boat. And the story is that they put it in the boat, fired it up for the first time, blipped the throttle, and the propeller stayed still and the boat rotated and it sank. And that was the end of that. But anyway, whatever it is, Algie, when he died in '54, still had the remains of the car. Gerald then had it, and he was very enthusiastic, but the job, it was such a big job, it was really just a bit too big, too difficult for him. But by the time he died, or just before he died, by 2005 or so he had it for 50 years. Wow. So it dominated his life. It was a 50-year rebuild, and he just about got it going, but I don't think he thought it was drivable. It was just too crazy. So why was he built? I just think he was rebuilding it because he just wanted to rebuild it.
He just got like into a focus of, this is what I'm going to do.
Yes, but without quite knowing why. They got it going, but it didn't really run very well. And it's a car, as a small boy, you see in the magazines and books, that I always thought was the greatest. That and the 200 horsepower, the Fiat S76. Yeah. Some of the greatest cars ever. Always fancied it, but knew it didn't exist.
Yeah.
And then in about the mid '80s, I heard rumours that it did still exist, because Gerald was nearing his end of his rebuild, and I was very lucky to be able to buy it. So he finished it, and then he was too old to do anything with it, and I think the family decided that they couldn't do anything with it, so they decided to sell it. And I bought it.
Fantastic.
And probably between 10 and 12,000 hour rebuild on it, and here it is, and it's just kind of groovy.
It's just an awesome
car. I'm slightly frightened of it.
It keeps you on your toes.
It does. It's a crazy car.
So you drive this kind of all over the place.
I have. I've been to Lyon in it. We went in 2014 for the centenary of the 1914 Grand Prix, which was in Lyon. We did 1,000 miles in France doing it. I've done 6,000 or 8,000 miles in it since I got it going.
It's incredible.
I mean, although there was a write-up when Algie got it in the auto car, and they said something like, this car, unlike other record cars, is totally unsuitable for touring or scorching.
Oh.
But I don't know, it seems completely suitable for touring and scorching.
It's suitable for you, at least.
So I tour in it and do a bit of scorching.
That's it's brilliant. I mean, so this is out hill climbs, you race it.
So I drive it on the road, I sprint it, and I race it.
It's wild. So control-wise, I mean, at this point, are we more traditional, or are we still hand controls?
So on steering wheel, throttle, brake and clutch, all in as you'd expect.
That's interesting.
It's advanced retard and hand throttle. It's only got a 2-speed gearbox, and that's the gear lever, bottoms forwards and tops back. It's geared to do, I think, 45 mph per 1,000 rpm in bottom, approximately, and about 85 or 90 mph per 1,000 rpm in top. So it'll do 130 miles an hour in top. I don't know. I've no idea how fast I've been in it. I haven't got a speedo on it.
Maybe
so
that's a good thing.
I literally don't know. But it would, if it did 120 miles an hour on sand, I reckon it would do 130, but I don't know how fast I've been.
It's right. So we haven't seen this for a few years because you had a bit of a disaster.
I had a bit of a trauma at Mallory Park. I think it might be 3 years ago, and that barrel blew off the crankcase. The flange came off the bottom of the block, and the whole block came off. And once it came off, it didn't disappear because it was restrained by the decompressor. But it came off, it probably moved 6 inches off, so the pistons came out of the bottom of the bores, flailed about, smashed the bottom of the block off, destroyed the pistons, karate chopped the crankcase. There are photos of bits of the engine bouncing down the track at Mallory. So I had to make a new block for that, but that's all done.
You brush over that like it's just a thing one does.
Well, I almost didn't want to think about it. It was quite a big job, but it was not really difficult. But
it's a big old job. Because the thing with this is you're not going to go and buy these parts anywhere.
No.
I mean, the people that build the engine.
It's not a problem because it's all simple, but you do have to make everything.
One of the things I love about this engine, and actually it's true on a lot of the vintage engine, is the tappets on the outside, and you can see the engineering happening.
There's not really anything hidden.
No, and it's a beautiful thing to be reminded that this engineering is happening in all of your engines, but they've just hidden it all.
Yeah, it's all there. So, and you know, quite early for overhead valves.
It's like nothing new under the sun again. It's sort of they tried these things out and revisited them later on.
The one modification from original, although Algie Guinness did it, had low tension ignition, but he took that off in 1908 and put a high tension mag on it. So I've kept high tension ignition because he threw away all the igniters and the tappets and the push rods which you need for low tension ignition. They're all gone. But it's fine on it, you know, it works really well. Starts not too badly. Starts on the handle.
So the iconic top.
Yes.
What is that?
That's the water tank.
That's the water tank.
So you've got the water comes out of the tank here.
Okay.
Down to it's got a gear water pump down there. Then it comes out of the water pump. It's not the way you'd expect it. It comes out of the tank into the water pump, out of the water pump into the bottom of the rad, up through the rad, then out to the top of the rad, into this rail here, and out of that rail into the blocks, then out of the blocks through here, back into the tank.
Ah, okay, and it does that for all four blocks,
and now normally, on say the Benz or any of the other cars here with a normal radiator, you come out of the top of the engine, into the top of the rad, which is a header tank, then it drains through the rad, and the pump sucks out of the rad and pumps into the engine.
So you're doing it backwards.
But you're doing it backwards because there's a lot of resistance in this radiator. You can't suck water through it. You've got to blow it through it. So and if you suck nearly boiling water, it'll boil and you get an airlock. So the coolest water is the water coming out of this. No, that's not true. The water coming out of this is not going to boil because it's a large pipe straight into the water pump. So that's not going to cavitate. The gear pump then pushes the water. You can then push the water without any problem. So you push it into the bottom of the rad, and it flushes any air out or steam will come out of the top of the rad and then into the tank.
That's fabulous. That's like it's a proto-engineering. It's like they were trying these things out and understanding them.
It's quite logical. Once you've worked it out.
And I guess that's without the thing you had to work out on.
I did. But there are a lot of good photos, and it took me a little while to get my head around it. But the way the plumbing's done around here on the 06 Grand Prix car has a slightly different radiator, and that gave me a clue about how this was done. And once I'd worked out, you know, you can see these pipes here. So it's obvious the water comes out of here into here. That's obvious. And then once you've realised that it's not what you're expecting, then it's completely obvious. Once
the trick of it is in your brain, it's like, okay, here we are. Well, we absolutely love this thing. I always wondered, do you know that Jay Leno has a picture of this car on his wall?
Well, I did see a picture of him in a magazine somewhere, and I saw it, but yes, I did. So he maybe he's a fan.
I think he's a fan of your car, which is a nice thing to have.
That's good.
We love the car. In fact, we love all of your cars. You have a lovely collection of stuff. We love the way you use them, and you are out there using them, as are all the rest of the VSCC guys.
Yes,
I'll say again.
Indeed. Well, we'll be out tomorrow morning.
Fantastic. So keep an eye on the stream and keep an eye on these guys because they are the most entertaining racing anywhere in the world.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.